Welcome to AI for You. Today's prompt is all about using deep research to examine your website content and performance data to identify opportunities and make recommendations on how to increase enrollment. The prompt in today's show notes is fairly long and requires you to upload data from Google Search Console and Google Analytics 4. But you can look through the prompt and see how this could be adapted for any other sort of data or content strategies. This is a sampling of one way to use deep research capabilities and make the most of a new capability to include reference documents and data within your deep research prompts. And it's really a game changer. Today, we're talking with Nicole Brini. Nicole is the head manager of international relations at Università Cattolica in Milan, Italy. They have some unique and innovative ways to leverage generative AI within their institution, and I'm excited to share this conversation. Let's jump right in. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Nicole.
Oh, thank you for having me, Brian.
I want to start off by hearing a little bit about how you are integrating AI into your work at UC.
So the university has developed an institution-wide project on digital innovation. And this project is led by our IT department, which makes all the sense in the world, and consists of many different sub-projects, mainly, but not only focused on uses of AI, focusing on customer support for staff and also for students as well. There are some other projects, but I am leading one of the sub-projects that started as a simple AI chatbot implementation, but led us also to challenge the status quo and our perspectives, and also sparked a bit of conversations internally. So Università Cattolica is the largest non-state university in Europe. We have 40,000 students across 5 campuses in Italy, and we welcome over 5,000 international students per year from over 126 countries. So that's a lot of international students and a lot of languages, a lot of expectations, a lot of programs. So we decided to partner with Element 451 to deliver a student-facing chatbot. At the beginning, we approached the project from a very naive point of view. I guess that's a good way to probably describe that. But we rapidly shifted a focus. We were collecting and analyzing all of the documentation that we would feed in our knowledge base. So we needed to cater to all of these different international students in different time zones that were speaking different languages, and parents were also getting in touch with us. So we felt like our admissions and recruitment team were, on one hand, overwhelmed with the number of communications that they were sending out. On the other hand, we felt like we needed to develop a new channel for students to get in touch with us in an easier way, and also to find the correct information and the answers that they were looking for at the right moment. So what we did, we discovered a lot of discrepancies in our data. In our website, we found a lot of inconsistencies, but we weren't defined by that. We decided to analyze all of our inquiries using generative AI. This was even before actually developing, implementing the AI chatbot. We took all of our inquiry data, all of our website, and we ran it through ChatGPT, building some customized GPTs that could help us in identifying recurrent topics that we weren't addressing in the website or in our communications. And based on this analysis, we also asked to infer questions that would use natural language that students actually speak, and not the bureaucratic language that we would naturally use in our work. So the project itself was successful. We saw a very high result rate of the inquiries from the students. But while we were happy with the results, we were also concerned about our knowledge base. So we felt like, as much as we worked on collecting all the data, cleaning it, and making the language sound more natural and easy to understand, we still felt like our website needed some rework. So we recently decided to rewrite all of our program and admission pages. So while our aim was it's always been communicating as easy as possible, but sometimes we need to recognize that we are too involved in the complexity of the process to actually realize that some of the things can be written in an easier way. And we can also change perspectives. So we know that right now, almost 60% of searches on Google and with a zero-click behavior. We felt like we needed to improve our website. And this is what we're working on. And this, we feel that will help our zero-click or generative engine optimization strategy, as well as our AI chatbot. Because we have, again, 5 campuses, many different programs, different deadlines, different tuition. Even humans get confused. So we don't need to blame AI for the confusion, but we can make things easier for human, AI, and also the AI search disruption that we're experiencing right now. So we are prioritizing our text for structure clarity, the formatting, and everything that makes sense to generative engine optimization strategy. So we're cleaning our texts, we're shortening them as much as we can, but also sometimes actually we are rewriting them to make the content clearer. From one little thing, I don't know if that's the way to put it, but from a simple AI chatbot, we started challenging a lot of the assumptions that we had for probably the past decade.
And that's a great kind of example of how AI integration is so much more than just a new software tool, because it really does change the entire dynamic of how we think, how we do our work, how we communicate to our audiences. And I think that's, really critical as we start looking at the shifting search landscape. Is so much of our work to date has really been focused on keywords, and people don't search by keywords, and especially not on, on large language models or in voice or even on social. So really starting to think about how to adjust and adapt our content to fit the way that our users are searching. I think that's a fascinating case study. What is it about higher ed, do you think, that makes AI integration so challenging for so many institutions?
So many different things. Well, higher ed is not like the fastest industry in the world. Higher ed has also these two faces, like the academic side of things, the administrative side of things. It's very complex. It's probably very similar to how hospitals work, I guess, in a way, like where you have the doctors and those who run the hospital from the management point of view, and both have their different skills and capabilities. But we feel like we are institutions that are a place where knowledge is kept and is transferred to students. So AI is challenging a lot that kind of assumption and how we've done things for the past decades. On the other hand, at least I'm not sure about the US, but here in Italy and in Europe, change management is a big thing. Change management is not easy. So it's a mix of different things. But yes, change management that is not easy for either the administrative or the academic side of things in higher ed. The basic assumption of why universities are there and what's the promise that we're making to our students. And yes, the fact that we've always been a little bit slower than our competitors in different industries.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the size of a lot of institutions, especially larger institutions, it
Yes.
creates so many silos and so many
Mhm.
groups working on their own, that adds to the complexity. And I won't even get into the data fragmentation. That's a whole nother episode. So what advice do you have for institutions that are just getting started with AI?
What are you waiting for? Really? No, jokes aside, start small. identify projects that really need an extra pair of hands. Don't focus only on the concept of, the basics. We all start from the basic, and that's fine, like summarizing text or translating in a different language, or having your email reviewed to make it more polite or more professional, whatever. Fine. But think of AI as a new colleague with new skills and, moreover, new motivation, maybe the motivation that you probably lacked in the past, I don't know, 1 year, 3 years, and a new perspective. We have an army of specialists that are in front of us and that are happy to help us. Little fun fact, in 2020, I started following road cycling. So I cycle myself. I'm not a road cycling professional, of course. But when I started following that, I learned, which I didn't know before, that cycling is not a solo sport. Although you have just one person that wins, the tour or the stage. It's a team sport, because the captain of the team would never be able to do that alone, because it needs its wingmans. A wingman is the person it's a teammate that does a lot of things for the captain. So it rides in front of the captain to block the wind. This helps the captain save energy. And AI frees us from repetitive tasks to help us focus on the strategy or what truly matters. It brings the food and the water from the team car to the captain, so it doesn't need to have to stop. So, and that actually made me think about, the deep research functionality. It's like bringing the food and the water to the captain. And it also protects the captain from crushes or pushes when they're in the peloton, since it's Tour de France season. But the fresh look, the different perspective, the brainstorming capabilities that we can put into place when we really leverage AI, the double checking of any idea that we have, everything actually can protect our work and also can augment our capabilities. So I think that without a wingman, and so institutions that are approaching AI and AI's integration should actually treat AI. We often talk about interns or butlers. I really like the wingman, because the wingman actually helps the captain to win the race. But the captain is the one who's winning the race. If he doesn't have the capabilities to actually arrive and cross the finish line as a stage winner, he will never be able to win the Tour de France. So we are in charge. We are not like outplayed by the AI. So the wingman is there to help us bring food and block the wind for us.
I think that's a fascinating analogy. I love that. And I always love, like, real world examples crossed over into, work, and especially AI integration examples. And we do hear a lot of people say, treat it like an intern, treat it like, but I love the idea of the wingman, because it is really augmenting. It is really figuring out how to elevate the skills and talents you already have that you bring to the table, not replacing what you do, because you have to be the driver. You have to be the one in control to be able to tell it what you need. So that's great. What are some of the most interesting use cases that you've seen or heard of?
So I think that agentic AI will have an incredible impact on higher ed, regardless if institutions are adopting it or not adopting it. When agentic AI and their power to hyper personalize engagement with our students will become widespread, I believe that this will be setting the expectation bar even higher. So in the past, when humankind experienced big revolution, like, I don't know, the industrial revolution or even the advent of the internet, the population had more time to adapt to these big revolutions and changes. Well, this generative AI revolution has accelerated the adoption phase has put that adoption phase to new heights. Like, it's not even, you can feel overwhelmed. People I mean, you learn a new trick or a new tool or a new functionality, and the week after there is a new development, and you cannot really, keep ahead of that. So technology is evolving at an insane pace. But I think that this is super interesting. At the same time, it can feel super scary because, again, regardless of whether someone is adopting AI or agentic AI or not, at some point they will need to actually start running to get their spot in this very crowded marketplace, let's say. It's like, I feel like at some point it will become like when you didn't have a website, when everyone was having a website, similar to that. On the other hand, I'd like to tell you what I'd like to see more in higher ed, but I haven't really retrieved any actual examples. But we spend so much time and energy and money trying to attract students to our institutions, and we integrate AI in the student journey. But I'd like to see more effort in AI for employability, placement, career advising, all of these phases. So we all heard about the unemployment rate for the newly grads in the US. It reached 6% roughly, which was an all-time low since 40 years ago. We heard Dario Amodei negative comments on probably, or pessimistic comments on what's going to happen with unemployment in the future. And my daughter is 5 years old, and there's still time before thinking about college. But I cannot help myself but think, what subjects will still be relevant or university relevant in 13 years? What skills should we crucially work on during this time? When are institutions creating conversations around this subject from both an academic and an administrative point of view? So these are my two use cases.
Yeah, and I think those are so critical with 4 kids in college right now. There are lots of conversations going on right now about opportunities and how to find, experience, how to gain that knowledge, where to find internships. There are so many opportunities out there that are just so difficult to discover right now. And these tools are so good at helping with discovery and with matching graduating students with potential employers, and finding opportunities like that. So I think that is definitely, an area of a lot of opportunity within the higher ed space. So that's a great observation. Where do you see AI going in the next year or two? And what are you either excited about or nervous about from that?
Everything and everything is the answer. But no, well, I see agentic AI taking the lead, definitely. But with great power comes great responsibility. So we will need leaders who truly lead. We need critical thinkers to be at the forefront of this movement. And we cannot just go agentic AI unleashed and not think about it, of course. But maybe when artificial general intelligence will make its appearance, this could change. I don't know. AI will and already is taking some of our jobs. I do recognize that, although I regard myself as an AI optimist. However, AGI might also help us find answers to the big questions that we have and to the big problems that we're facing. So I don't know if AGI will find a cure for cancer or come up with solutions for climate change. I don't know that. I have a good friend who is also a professor here at Università Cattolica. His name is Ciro De Florio. He's a professor of logic. And we had a conversation about this. And he said that AI is invaluable as a sophisticated problem solving aid, but is not a magic wand. So climate change, for instance, is a complex mix of technology, geopolitics, and also social behavior. So AI tools do not eliminate human conflict, inequality, or the need for political cooperation. I cannot predict the future. I see where we're going, and we're going towards a future that will be more and more AI driven. And this is why we really need to prepare our students and also our staff to disruption and change and flexibility, everything. At the same time, I'm optimistic about what could happen, but I'm nervous about the human beings behind the big, big questions that we're trying to solve.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time that we're moving into because these tools, this technology can do so many things. It's capable of doing so many things. And we have to start being very cautious and very intentional about what we have those tools do. I mean, we can replace a lot of jobs with these tools, but we also want to make sure that we're creating new jobs and that we're retaining the knowledge and the expertise that we have in order to, make sure that we can still validate the inputs and the outputs from these tools. And especially as we start getting into more agentic I think these tools, are going to be able to take care of, larger workflows and more complex processes. But then we're going to have to turn over a certain amount of control. And we need to make sure that we have people in place who are able to go in and, validate that and make sure that all the work is getting done and that the, students and our other audiences are still getting the same attention, personalization, and care that, we need. I mean, we've worked so hard to build trust with our audiences, and these tools, we've seen it happen, can destroy that trust very quickly if they're not carefully monitored and, responsibly and ethically integrated. So
That's true. Very true.
it's a fascinating time that we're in.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I feel like at the same time, it's challenging, but also exciting because we live in a time where we're not static. We need to continue to evolve. It doesn't matter if you're 20 years old, 40 years old, 60 years old. You need to actually challenge your perspective. You need to challenge what you've been thinking about for the past 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever. So this is pretty exciting, although, yes, it requires a lot of change management strategies and also a good open minded staff that will support that.
Yes, absolutely. And you've mentioned change management a few times. I'm a huge fan of the idea that, AI integration is all about change management. What can we do as marketers, as enrollment staff, to start making, to start taking steps towards integration within our department, within our team, within our organization, if there's not, a push from leadership to adopt AI? What do you think marketers and other staff can start doing to help move that change forward?
We can definitely start shifting perspective. So we can start from the bottom, let's say, and address those pain points, those things that really make our job difficult, and the things that we recognize as human being as something like it's nonsense in 2025 that we are doing something this way. Are there any opportunities there to change? So one of the things that when we started working, well, integrating some of AI tools in our department, and I'm at Universidad Católica. I work for the Global Engagement and International Education department. Even before we got like our proper chat GPT enterprise licenses, we were advocating for AI tools with our IT team. But at the same time, we were running lunch and learn sessions. We were talking about that. We were exchanging ideas. We thought like, let's come up with, I don't know, 10 new ideas about how to use AI, use cases, prompts, after doing like a general overall description of what was going on. And this was, I think it was 2023, so probably the fall of 2023, we started doing that. So it started from the bottom, really. It didn't start from the leadership of the university. But at the same time, it was by identifying like by recognizing the capabilities of AI and how AI could actually help us do the work faster, better sometimes, and also again improve and augment our own skills, very human skills like creativity. And this is something that I reflect on very, very often. Once we recognize that, we could also recognize like, oh, we have this thing at work that actually is a pain point. maybe we can find a way to use AI, integrate AI in our workflow to actually make our lives easier and also provide the students with a better student journey that's doesn't make it overcomplicated to actually apply to our university or to get a response from our university, because we're humans and we sleep and we eat and we do all of those things. One of the things that make AI great is also that is it's for everyone. So you don't need to be an engineer to play around with it. You don't need to know coding. You need to be a good communicator and you need to learn to use AI. And this actually means that you need to treat it as a skill that you need to learn constantly. So set aside 1 hour per week, focus on playing with AI, read a blog post, listen to a podcast, or go on LinkedIn and search for AI as a topic to read something. And maybe you'll read about someone in South America that is dealing with, I don't know, textiles that actually used a prompt that could be tweaked and applicable to higher ed in Italy. You never know, but you need to be open minded. You need to welcome change. You need to prepare for the future. And this brings me back to what we were discussing before about the need to be flexible at any age and being open to challenging processes that have been in place for many years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting technology for us to evolve into because it is changing so quickly and so rapidly that you really can't stop searching for new ideas. And it's fascinating the way you mentioned that, you might get an idea from someone using these tools in a completely different industry, in a completely different way, but the application, and the implementation might be different, but the use and the way that they are communicating with the tool or the way they're putting information in or getting information out can work across all different fields. So I think that's always a fascinating thing to be looking for. So one of the questions I always end with is asking what AI use cases are helping you personally the most in your role or in your personal life.
I can think of 3, one of which we already mentioned, the generative engine optimization strategy / zero click strategy, a project that we're currently working on. I feel that AI can, of course, support us in understanding how AI is working and retrieving the information that users are actually asking for. Of course, we have it's a pre-structured project, so we have the AI laid out throughout the project, but we have different types of reviews, and we challenge the content that the AI is rewriting in very different ways because it's not always perfect, of course, and we need to work on it. But we have custom GPTs throughout the process to address that. This is really helping us. Probably if I had to rewrite the website, I don't know, 5 years ago for a very different kind of goal, let's say from scratch, it probably would have been taking me I don't know, 6 months, a year, I don't know. Right now we're looking at an implementation phase of 3 months, but it's only part-time. I dedicate a number of hours. I have 2 other staff on top of me, dedicating a number of hours per week. So it's not like a full-time project that we're working on. This is the first one. The second one that I found really interesting. So last October, I ran one of my focus groups with international students to ask them their experience about Università Cattolica, if it was different from their expectation and so on. So I had everything, of course, recorded. I had AI help me polish the transcripts and analyze the transcripts and come up with all the different questions that I asked, and actually putting down all the topics that the students were mentioning, the negatives, the positive, etc. And then I also asked ChatGPT, based on what I learned from the transcripts of the focus groups, what kind of insights that I didn't think of yet from the analysis that we ran together, what kind of insights I was missing. So that was interesting. It probably gave me 3 or 4 two unsure. One was really good, and I put it back in the presentation. On top of that, I also use that data and the polished data, the transcript, etc., to generate a synthetic focus group based on the real one that lives in a custom GPT in my ChatGPT instance. And the last one is a colleague of mine from my team. She will be changing a student worker that is currently working with her on our CRM. So it's a very, precise type of work. She needs to, put together reports and send out campaigns to the CRM. So it's very delicate, but very, very precise. So she's building a custom GPT that is like the reference. It's going to be the reference on top of the training that the human, like my colleague, will give the new student worker. But it's going to be like act as a reference knowledge base for the new student worker. So if we can think also about, staff onboarding resources through AI, I think that's a very interesting use case.
Yeah, I love that. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and sharing some of your time and thoughts with the audience. If people want to connect with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Well, probably LinkedIn. So I'm on LinkedIn, Nicole Brini, which is spelled Brini, and I would be happy to connect and talk all things about AI. And thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Nicole. Nicole's insights demonstrate how AI integration often leads to much deeper institutional transformation than initially anticipated. What began as a chatbot project became a catalyst for reimagining their entire digital communication strategy. It's a perfect example of how AI challenges us to examine long-held assumptions about how we work. Her cycling analogy of AI as a wingman rather than a replacement offers a refreshing perspective of human AI collaboration. The wingman blocks the wind and provides opportunities for food and protects the cyclist, but the champion still has to cross the finish line. This framework can help us understand AI's role in augmenting human capabilities rather than replacing them. I was particularly struck by Nicole's observation about the accelerated pace of change. Unlike previous technological revolutions that gave institutions decades to adapt, the AI transformation is happening in real time, creating both unprecedented opportunities and urgent pressures for adoption. Her grassroots approach, starting with lunch and learn sessions and pain point identification, offers a practical roadmap for change agents in institutions where top-down AI mandates may not be forthcoming. The key is demonstrating value through improved workflows and better experiences. Please reach out to me with unique ways that you're integrating AI into your professional and personal lives. And as always, blue skies and keep creating.